had always enjoyed the solitude of being home alone, but that night was different. The wind outside howled like a pack of wolves, and the trees scraped against my window, their skeletal branches casting eerie shadows across the room. I tried to shake off the feeling of unease as I settled down on the couch with a good book. As I read, I couldn't help but notice every creak and groan of the old house. I attributed it to the wind, but then I heard a soft whisper, like someone calling my name. I dismissed it as my imagination playing tricks on me. Hours passed, and I began to feel a growing sense of dread. I couldn't escape the feeling that I was being watched. I decided to check the doors and windows, making sure they were all locked. Everything seemed secure, but as I turned to head back to the living room, I saw it, a shadowy figure standing at the end of the hallway. My heart pounded in my chest as I froze in place. The figure seemed to be a tall, cloaked figure, its face hidden in darkness. It beckoned me with a long, bony finger, and I felt a chill run down my spine. I should have run, but I was paralyzed by fear. My voice got caught in my throat as I watched the figure slowly glide toward me, each step a whisper on the hardwood floor. The air grew colder and I could see my own breath. The figure was now just inches away, and I could finally see its face, a grotesque mask, twisted in a wicked grin. It reached out a skeletal hand and touched my shoulder, sending a shock of icy cold through my body. I screamed and stumbled back, breaking free from its grip. Without thinking, I ran for the front door, fumbling with the locks. The wind outside howled louder, as if in approval of my escape. I burst out into the night, not looking back until I was a safe distance away from the house. When I finally turned around, the figure was nowhere to be seen. But I knew it had been real. It had been there, in the shadows of my home. To this day, I can't explain what I saw that night. I moved far away from that house, and I never felt truly alone again. The memory of that chilling encounter still haunts my dreams, a constant reminder that some things are better left in the darkness. 6 months ago, I married my husband, Harry. Harry has a 13-year-old daughter from a previous marriage named Lily. I don't have kids. Lily and I have never gotten along. However, in the past few months, since we got married, things have gotten much worse. She used to just ignore me. Now, she's actively aggressive. I found paint on my favorite heels. She accidentally used one of my favorite t-shirts as a cleaning rag. She even spilled some sort of black ink on our bed during an art project or something like that. Who knows? Harry has talked to her, over and over again. But he hasn't really disciplined her. I keep telling him she needs to see the consequences of her actions, but he's too much of a softie to actually ground her or take away her phone. She's going through a tough time, he keeps telling me. Please, just let her be for a few months. I tried to ignore it, but then it got worse. Harry was on a 3-day business trip, so I was completely in charge of Lily, and she amped it up to 11. The very first morning, she came down the stairs wearing one of my necklaces. "You can wear my jewelry, but need to ask me for permission first," I told her. "I don't need to ask permission for anything," she replied, rolling her eyes. "Yes, you do. For the next 3 days, your dad's gone, so you need to listen to me." "No, I don't. You're not my mom," she shouted. Then she pulled at the necklace and snapped it right in two. I wanted to scream, but instead I calmly confiscated her phone. Harry would be furious with me, but I'd had enough. When she got home from school, she ran into her room and locked the door, crying. I explained everything to Harry over the phone. I could hear the annoyance in his voice, but he agreed that she needed to learn and that it was okay to keep her phone for a few days. So I thought things were looking up. Then it happened. Later that night, after Lily went to bed, I wanted to take a picture of our cat. But I grabbed Lily's phone by mistake, and after I took the photo, when I went to the camera reel, I found a photo of myself, sleeping. What the hell? It was a dark, grainy photo. She hadn't used the flash, but I could still make out my face clearly, smushed against the pillow. Eyes closed. I could make out Harry's silhouette in the background behind me, facing the other way, and my book on the nightstand. Before I could stop myself, I flipped to the next photo. And there was another one of me sleeping. taken from a different angle, taken from below, like she'd been hiding under the bed. My thumb raced across the screen as I flipped back through the photos. There were dozens of them, dozens of photos of me sleeping, one taken from inside our bathroom, another taken from inside our closet. I looked at the timestamp on them. They were all taken around 2 in the morning, over the course of weeks. I tried to call Harry 3 times, but his phone went right to voicemail. It was after midnight and he had an early meeting tomorrow. He must have turned it off. Come on, I muttered, calling him a 4th time. Jen? I jumped about a foot in the air. Lily was standing behind me, in the semi-darkness. Her wavy hair hung halfway over her face. I backed away. What do you want? I asked, quickly ending the call. I want my phone back. Not tonight, I replied, my heart pounding. Maybe tomorrow. She shrugged. Okay. Then she went back upstairs and into her room. I flipped through the photos one more time. Why in the world would she take these photos? To intimidate me, to scare me, to help her plan of murdering me, or there was a much more likely, much less sinister reason. She could have taken them to embarrass me. Maybe she planned to post them all over TikTok or Instagram. Me, sleeping with my mouth open, looking like shit. Really mean of her, but not psychopathic. Still, I locked my door that night anyway. After talking to Harry, I felt better. He thought the same thing. She was taking them to post them online or something, but he was now in total agreement with me. This has gotten out of hand. I'm going to talk to her as soon as I get back. So that was a relief at least. Can I have my phone back today? Lily asked when I picked her up from school. If you're really, really nice, I'll give it back, okay? I just locked the bedroom door at night. She couldn't take more photos of me. But later that night, I regretted my promise. Lily was a model kid. She thanked me for dinner. She washed her dishes. She even folded the towels sitting on the dryer. And while I didn't want to give the phone back, I wanted to reward her for being so good. So I gave it back. At 2:30 in the morning, I woke with a start. As I sat up in the darkness, I realized what woke me up. A clicking, metallic noise. It was coming from the door. Just as I started to get out of bed, the door creaked open, and there was Lily with a bobby pin in her hands. She'd picked the lock. "What are you doing?" I hissed. Her eyes went wide. Then she ran back down the hallway towards her room. I jumped out of bed, running after her. "Hey! Hey!" I shouted. "Why are you taking pictures of me? Why?" She stopped. Then slowly, she turned around. Dad didn't believe me, so I had to take the pictures. "Didn't believe you? About what?" She didn't say anything. Instead, she handed me her phone. She swiped to the first photo of me, taken in the darkness, grainy and dark. She pointed to the ceiling. "Look." "At what?" "Turn the brightness up." I did, and then I gasped. There was something there. On the ceiling, spindly long shapes crisscrossing each other. Even with the brightness turned way up, it was hard to make out, but there was definitely something there. She flipped to the next photo, and the next. My heart began to pound. It was like watching one of those old flip book animations. In slow motion, with each swipe, the thing on the ceiling unfolded itself and began reaching for the bed. I stared at the final photo, the one she'd just taken, minutes ago. Me sitting up in bed, my face twisted in anger and shock as I cried out for Lily. And behind me, long spindly arms reaching for me. The phone fell out of my hands. Dad didn't believe me. When I showed him the pictures, he didn't see it. He yelled at me and said I was reading too many scary stories, so I've been showing them to my friends. We've been trying to figure out what it is, but we don't know. Lily and I are staying at a friend's place for the time being. We're not going back there. Not until we talk to Harry, not until we figure this out. We don't know what this is. We've been searching nonstop and haven't found anything promising. I never liked being alone at night. The darkness had a way of turning the ordinary into the eerie, and the silence was an unsettling reminder of how isolated I was in my small, creaky house. But on this particular night, I found myself home alone, save for my faithful companion, Max, a scruffy German shepherd who was always at my side. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, each second feeling like an eternity. My husband, Mark, was out of town for a business trip, leaving me alone to navigate the creaks and groans of the old house. I had always been easily spooked, and every little noise sent shivers down my spine. The wind whistling through the trees outside sounded like whispers, and the occasional creaking of the floorboards seemed like ominous footsteps. As I sat on the couch clutching a warm cup of tea, Max laying at my feet. His head was resting on his paws, his big brown eyes watching me with a calm reassurance that always put me at ease. I sighed, trying to relax, and turned on the TV to drown out the unsettling quiet. Hours passed, and I managed to convince myself that my overactive imagination was playing tricks on me. The only thing that seemed out of place was the eerie green glow from the digital clock on the microwave. It was 2 in the morning when I finally decided to head to bed, bringing Max with me. The bedroom was a sanctuary, with its warm, cozy atmosphere providing some solace from the darkness outside. I crawled under the covers and pulled Max up with me, his warmth and presence making me feel secure. I closed my eyes, trying to drift into a peaceful slumber. But just as I was about to fall asleep, I heard it, a strange noise that made my heart race and my skin prickle with unease. It was a low, guttural growl, so unlike Max's usual gentle demeanor. He was on high alert, his hackles raised, and his eyes fixed on the bedroom door. I sat up, straining my ears to listen. The growling continued, growing louder and more menacing with each passing second. My mind raced as I tried to rationalize what could be causing this unnatural behavior in my loyal companion. Was there an intruder in the house? A wild animal outside? Summoning every ounce of courage, I carefully slid out of bed, trying not to make a sound. Max followed me, his growl now a deep, throaty rumble. My trembling hand reached for the baseball bat I kept under the bed for emergencies. Gripping it tightly, I crept towards the bedroom door, heart pounding in my chest. As I inched closer to the hallway, the growling reached a deafening crescendo. Max's fierce bark joined in, and together they created a symphony of fear that echoed through the house. It was a chilling sound, one that sent shivers down my spine. With the bat held high, I stepped into the dimly lit hallway, Max leading the way. The air was thick with tension, and I could feel the weight of the unknown bearing down on me. Every shadow seemed to come alive, and every corner held the potential for danger. We moved cautiously toward the source of the noise, which seemed to be emanating from the living room. The dim glow from the moonlight filtered through the curtains, casting eerie shapes on the walls. Max's barking grew more frenzied as we approached the living room, and my heart pounded in my chest. As I reached the doorway, I froze. There, in the center of the room, was something I couldn't explain. A dark, shadowy figure, swirling and shifting, like a wisp of smoke. It seemed to be hovering just above the floor, undulating and pulsating in a way that defied all logic. I tightened my grip on the baseball bat, ready to defend myself and Max if necessary. The growling intensified, and Max lunged toward the swirling figure, but his attempts were futile. He passed right through it as if it were made of air. The figure responded by letting out an otherworldly shriek, a blood-curdling sound that filled the room with dread. I watched in horror as it began to advance toward me, its shape contorting and morphing with each step. Panic set in, and I swung the bat wildly, striking the creature with all my strength. But the bat passed through it just as Max had. The figure let out another ear-piercing scream, and I stumbled back, falling to the floor in sheer terror. Max continued to bark and growl, his loyal instincts in overdrive. As the figure drew closer, I could see its swirling mass of darkness coalesce into a grotesque face, a face that seemed to scream in agony. I covered my ears, trying to block out the maddening sound, but it reverberated inside my head, filling me with an overwhelming sense of dread. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost, Max lunged at the figure once more, this time with a ferocity that I had never seen before. His jaws clamped down on the swirling darkness, and the room was filled with a blinding white light that seemed to sear through my very soul. The figure let out a final, anguished wail before dissipating into nothingness. The room fell silent, save for Max's heavy breathing. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of exhaustion and triumph. I stumbled to my feet, still in shock from the night's events. Max had saved me from whatever malevolent force had invaded our home, and I couldn't be more grateful for his unwavering loyalty and bravery. We spent the rest of the night huddled together on the couch, both of us too shaken to sleep. As the first rays of dawn began to creep through the windows, I couldn't help but wonder what had brought that darkness into our home. But for now, I was grateful that Max had been there to protect me, and I knew that as long as he was by my side, I could face whatever horrors the night might bring. Subscribe for weekly scary stories.